I was so tired of this constant chatter in my head. Like I would meet somebody on the street and I would know everything about them. How did I know all this? I thought I had this gift that I was kind of plagued with in a way. But what I realized, what he helped me realize was it was just that I was tuned into the wrong team. So I had really opened a door to some very demonic information.
Hey, Jews for Jesus friends and family. In the book of Matthew, chapter 16, Yeshua told his disciples, if anyone wants to follow after me, he must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. To those that decide to follow Yeshua, there is often a transition where the things of the old life are shed and the new life comes in. In 2 Corinthians 5:17, we read, therefore, if anyone is in Messiah, he is a new creation. The old things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new. Now, to some, that doesn't sound very appealing, but let me tell you, there is nothing that compares to leaving a life in pursuit of the things of the world that pass away to living a life for what is eternal, for that which gives purpose, peace, and joy, even amidst the suffering we all experience. Now, our special guest and faithful Jewish follower of Yeshua, Liz Nolan, has such a story, and she is here to share it with all of us. Liz, a former psychotherapist and New Ager of 32 years, she left all of this to become a champion for helping abused women and loves to share about the important role of women in the Bible. So without further ado, let's get into the conversation. Hey, Liz, thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate you being here on the channel.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm really excited to hear your story and share it with everybody that's watching. It's pretty amazing. And also to get into the topics of the importance of women in the Hebrew Scriptures and the New Testament, your ministry with sexually trafficked women, and the New Age teachings that many people go by today that go directly against biblical teaching. But first and foremost, how does a Jewish woman that was steeped in New Age and occult practices for decades become a follower of Yeshua?
Well, I guess I'll start with the big moment where I saw,
Yeah, what was your moment with Jesus?
Yeah. Okay. So I had gone to a very religious Jewish wedding, and it was probably the most observant wedding I've ever seen. And there was the ceremony of the unveiling, where the groom comes for the bride and he unveils her. And as the groom was coming for the bride, I can't really explain what happened on this particular night, but as all the Jewish men were coming in from the other room, yarmulkes, dancing like a scene from Fiddler on the Roof, I really felt the presence of God in a way that I had never felt before as a Jewish woman. And 2 days later, my husband was at work and my daughter was at school, and I woke up and I felt a distinct presence in the room. And I'll get into the background a little bit in a minute, but yeah, I felt a presence in the room, and I don't know how to explain this, but I knew immediately that I was in the presence of Jesus. And when I got up, I could actually see him. And it wasn't that he was super physical, but I could see in my eyes like what he looked like. And he had a huge chest. And I knew in that moment, without having any understanding, that he was the only way and that I was his, that he came for me. I also knew in that moment that the entire New Age was wrong. Now, I had been steeped in the New Age. It was part of a private practice of mine. And I actually remember putting my hands up to my face, saying like, oh, oops, kind of a thing. But there was really no shame in it. It was just that the presence, the love that I felt seemed to really draw out the understanding that what I had been doing was very wrong. And all I knew in that moment was that I couldn't go to the left. I couldn't go to the right. Like, it was him. There was only one path. And I really had no control in that moment. Like, I gave my life to him instantly.
Okay. So you felt the presence of God at an Orthodox party?
It was a wedding.
Wedding reception.
It was very, very observant. The groom had been raised Orthodox. I wouldn't call it Orthodox, but it
Okay,
was
so yeah, an observant.
very
Yeah,
religious. Yeah.
which is interesting because you would think that something like that might bring you closer to religious Judaism,
Yes.
but it
No.
didn't. But yet you said you knew it was Jesus. It didn't
It,
sound like you were expecting him.
um, uh, you mean when I woke up in my room the next
Yeah,
day? Why did
when
I
he
get?
revealed himself to you.
Yes. Well, there had been a whole series of events over a year where where I feel the Lord was drawing me.
I see.
So it wasn't random. And some of the events, do you want me to talk about a little bit
Yeah,
of the events?
let's go back. Let's go back into your history, into your
Okay.
past. What was your childhood like growing up, and how did you get into New Age and all of that?
Yeah, so I grew up in a really nice, beautiful Jewish home. My parents were Argentinian immigrants, just to give you sort of a flavor of what the home was like. My parents grew up in Argentina, but their parents were from Europe, Poland and Russia. So
Hmm.
they had immigrated to Argentina because of oppression and anti-Semitic activity. And then my parents had a generation in Argentina, and they came to the United States, and they actually brought over my entire extended Argentinian Jewish family.
Mm.
So we grew up in this home, and I went to Hebrew school. I had my bat mitzvah. We were certainly kind of like middle of the road conservative Jews. It really wasn't very religious, but there was a strong sense of Jewish identity in the home.
Mm.
And I was really expected to do the things that young Jewish women should do back then, and that was go to college, be educated, eventually marry a doctor. But anyway, so I went to college, and I got very interested in spiritual New Age activities. I had always been drawn spiritually. I think it was the fabric of who I was. Like I had an interest in things of the spirit, let's say. And at the time, I really didn't think anything of it. It all started very innocently. It was, oh,
Always does.
astrology, you just get into the next thing and the next thing. And it was very much in the holistic health movement. And I really liked holistic health. And I didn't understand then how all these worlds were merging. Holistic health and positive thinking was merging with the new age. So little by little, I got into it. And I went to grad school to be a therapist. And one day, my roommate handed me a book by Shirley MacLaine called Out on a Limb. And
Mhm.
she was, a real forerunner, Shirley MacLaine, famous actress,
Right.
forerunner of the New Age. And I was like, I'm home. Like, this is me. Like, this answers every question I have about reincarnation explains everything. I started going to readers and psychics. This is while I was getting a traditional education as a therapist. And I kind of had them in two different boxes, and I thought I was just having fun. Everybody kept telling me I had all these special talents. So little by little on the side, I started doing these readings for people as well. So while I was being educated as a therapist, very clinical program on one hand, on the other, I'm sort of growing in this new age feeling, community, and belief system. And I'm all the way in. And
Yeah.
this was in my early 20s. And I spent the next 35 years in that, yeah, a long time.
Yeah, I thought my stint was long. It was 20
Too,
years.
yeah, it's just way too long.
Yeah.
I had a few times where I would dip in and out of it. Thankfully, when I was raising my kids, I
Yeah.
took a little break. I see it as God's grace, but it was still my philosophy. It seemed to answer a lot of questions. I really liked the way it had a strong spiritual emphasis that I did not feel my Jewish upbringing gave me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of my background. And then
Did you experience any anti-Semitism personally growing up?
I did. So we grew up in a community that was largely Catholic, and the people didn't understand anything about Jews or Argentinians. And I was in a school that I really was not the norm. So yes, little comments were were quite common, and anti-Semitic comments, and I was really kind of embarrassed. Fortunately, my parents had me in an alternative Jewish community at my synagogue,
Hmm.
so it did balance out some of the anti-Semitism, but I had some real negative associations with, I guess, what non-Jewish people think of Jewish people. And at the same time, I'm going to Hebrew school where we're constantly seeing videos of the Holocaust and how horrible what happened to the Jews was. So I grew up with this like awful hatred of Hitler, I remember, like what he did to our people. And there's a strong feeling in my family because we were the story of immigrants from Europe to Argentina to the United States of like, we survive because of our Jewish identity. And it wasn't until I read the Bible that I understood that's actually the entire story of Jews. But it was really personal to me.
It helps a lot to actually read the scriptures.
Yes,
it helps put things in order.
A lot makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like the idea that you should never marry, you should never marry outside. Everybody, you have to marry a Jewish person. Well, that came from the Old Testament even as well, but I don't even know if people know that today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you went headfirst into New Age, 35 years?
Something like that. Yeah.
Okay. And you developed a practice also.
Right. So here I was developing, I was a clinical psychotherapist. I started as a dance movement therapist. I became a licensed professional counselor. I brought it all together and I specialized in sexual trauma. Mm-hmm. And I had a really strong clinical practice. It didn't really have any direct New Age elements at all. And then on the side at home, I would have this New Age practice where I did hands-on healing, readings, channelings, all the kinds of things that are very typical in the New Age community. And I thought I was like super hip. I kind of just put all, I thought a lot of myself. And
me too.
Yeah, it's really awful. And you have to laugh a little about yourself sometimes. So, I knew so much. I was so wise. And anyway, so this is going on for years and years and years. And people are just like flocking at my door. And I didn't make it real public, but it became even really international. I had, lots of people on FaceTime and different modalities. I had lots of people in person. So I got this brilliant idea about 10 years before I got saved to merge my clinical and my New Age practice. I called myself a holistic psychotherapist where people come for readings, therapy, hands-on healing. And I had like these packages. I opened a healing center, and I had drones and drones. I mean, tons of people. And so as this is going on, I'm acutely aware that I don't feel so good. I'm starting to have a lot of physical, psychological symptoms that were really uncomfortable, that escalated terribly about 2 years or a year, between 2 years and a year before I got saved. Like I would do these readings for people and I would be so drained I couldn't function. My vision was starting to go. I couldn't think clearly. I had tremendous brain fog and I thought I was just burnt out. I'm like, I have a long time burnout from being this kind of caretaker of people. And I kept changing what I did in order to try to make it work better. Like I'll make the therapy part shorter and the reading longer. Whatever I did, nothing worked. So I was getting like sicker and sicker, and everything escalated as in my home, my youngest daughter was having a lot of problems at school. She was being bullied, and it escalated a huge event. And when that event happened and I was this sick, I said to my husband, like, something is wrong and I don't want to do this. I need to take a break. I just want to talk to God. I don't want to channel spirits and angel guides anymore. Right. I just want to talk to God. And he's like, that sounds good. All right, I'll just talk to God. So I was going to figure out how to talk to God. And I had some neck problems and I kept traveling to Lancaster to see my chiropractor. When I came to Lancaster as a huge Amish community, and they're Christians. I didn't really put all this together, but I developed an obsession with the Amish that I couldn't explain. At the time in my New Age world, I thought maybe it was like I was Amish in another life or something.
Right. Right.
I'm
Typical.
driving. So to get up to the finish line, I'll try to speed through this, but developed an obsession with the Amish. And my daughter, had this event. So we decided we would move to Lancaster. So we moved to Lancaster, which is a Christian Bible Belt. And I was this Jewish New Ager with a private practice in the New Age. And we just made a lot of jokes about it, thinking this would be funny. But I had decided now I wasn't going to channel these guides anymore. And when we got here, I couldn't stop going to Amish stores, and I kept finding myself in Christian book aisles. And I found a book called Betrayed by Stan Telichin. And I kept standing in the book aisle reading the book, but I wouldn't buy it because I felt so guilty. Like, as a Jewish person, why would I be reading about Jesus? So I kept going back to the bookstore to read the book. When finally I decided to order it right around the time of my niece's very religious Jewish wedding. So I actually had it in the bag. And I had said to my husband on one of my trips to the Amish bookstore, I brought him. I said, what if we just started reading traditional religion? Why don't we get a Bible? My husband's like, that's a great idea. So he hands me a King James Bible as well. I stick it in the night table by my bed, and we go to the wedding, and I have this experience of, I'll call it some type of direct, godly Jewish experience that I found to be wonderful during the unveiling ceremony that my niece went through. And 2 days later, when I woke up, is when I was keenly aware that there was a presence in the room with me. And within a moment, it wasn't even long enough to be a moment. I knew that it was Jesus, and I could see him. And what I could see mainly was this huge chest. And, you see these pictures of Jesus where they're like, he kind of looks like a hippie and he's small. Well, no, that is not what I saw. Like, this was a force you do not reckon with. It was like, if I could say 10 mountains, like 6'5", huge chest, complete love. Like, the love was so overwhelming, it literally enveloped me. And I was like, immediately I was like, you are who you said, everyone said you are. Like, you're really real. Like, you're the Son of God. Like, you are God. I just knew these things. I don't know how to explain it. I call it a Paul moment. It was just the veils went off my eyes. And I knew that the New Age was wrong. The first thing that hit me, besides this overwhelming love, was I had to stop all of my New Age activities immediately. And I'm like on my face in sorrow about the New Age. And I'm feeling all this love. And for 3 days, I saw him everywhere I went. It wasn't just that moment. It was like, I'm in the grocery store and I see him out of the side of my eye. I'm driving down the street and he's at the street sign. He's in the back seat. And it was he was coming in and out of my vision, but his presence was there the whole time. I could even feel at times almost like I was being held.
Yeah.
And so it was really something.
When just before I came to faith, there was a period of about a month and a half, and just like what you said, I couldn't turn left or right, look forward or backward, and not see him, feel him, something that was related to him. He was every single place I looked. I couldn't avoid him.
Yes. It's
everywhere.
That's perfectly worded. That's exactly what like everywhere. There was no escape. Yes.
Yeah. Which
gave me the understanding, like, it's all him. I mean, he saves and he does everything. Like, I want to say I had a choice, but you don't in that moment. Like, you don't even
I know what you mean.
Choice. You're his. And, all those little concerns we all have, like, I got to pay my electric bill. Is my kid going to pick the right college? All the things we all worry about meant nothing to me. Nothing. Yeah. It was all him. Nothing else existed but him.
Oh.
It was absolutely beautiful. And my life began to change radically. Like, he helped me understand that the readings that I was doing, I thought I was so gifted. I have this special talent. I can hear these wise sages. Right. What he basically revealed to me, because I didn't want to do any more psychic activity. And I was so tired of this constant chatter in my head.
Mm.
Like I would meet somebody on the street and I would know everything about them. How did I know all this? I thought I had this gift that I was kind of plagued with in a way. But what I realized, what he helped me realize was it was just that I was tuned into the wrong team. So I had really opened a door to some very demonic information. And frankly, familiar spirits do follow people around all day and know a lot of details of their life. So
Sure.
it was as soon as I got saved, the brick wall went down and I knew nothing. So here I would meet people on the street and I had this delight of knowing nothing except,
Mm.
you have a beautiful smile and how's
So
your
great.
day? It was like really being born again, really.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that testifies to your experience is your contrition, that you experienced when you realized that Jesus, who he said is who he said he was. That
Yeah.
that repentance that happens
Yeah.
through God's Spirit coming into us, and it just
Yeah.
breaks our hearts for the
Yeah.
life that we led. I mean, I remember throwing away all of my idols and my Buddha statues and my pictures of Om symbols and all. I mean, I threw them away so that no one could get them.
Yes, I did the exact same thing, Jeffrey. I said to my husband, first of all, my practice had moved into my house, and I was convinced that it brought danger to my daughter, who was bullied, and I had to, part of the reason we had to relocate. I said to my husband, who was like, what is happening? His head was spinning. We need to get all the New Age stuff out of the house. So we're running up and down the steps. And I had a house full of stuff. I did the same thing as you. And every now and then when I open an unopened box, I'll find something. I'm like, oh, got to get rid of this immediately.
Yeah. Yeah.
Terrible.
So
It's really traumatizing for me, a lot of the memories, to be honest with you.
wow. Yeah, I know. I do have to say that there could have been some post-traumatic stress from that whole experience, because there was a lot of spiritual torment
Yeah,
involved in all of that.
that's a really good point.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah. So what are you doing today?
So today I am full-time at home and full-time
Okay.
retired. I spend most of my time I want to say doing things of the Lord. I read and study my Bible in multiple Bible studies. I am trying to spread my testimony. I'm considering writing a book about it. And
Yeah.
I'm really here for my husband and my adult children at this point. I had a 35-year career that paralleled my time in the New Age.
Hmm.
And I did go back to work for a while, which I know I've mentioned to you in a ministry for sexually trafficked women. And,
Yeah.
I'm still, I call it like, God has me in the fire where I'm learning discernment and good
Right.
biblical understanding. When I got saved, it was so supernatural. And I really
Yeah.
want to say this. We are not to seek supernatural events, nor are we to think that everyone has the kind of supernatural conversion that you or I had, or a lot of
Right.
Jewish people have. But there are all kinds of stories and all kinds of testimonies where people are saved in ways that are not so over the top. I always say Jesus came to me in the language that I understood at the time, and
Yeah.
that was really veiled. So it would have taken something like that to be honest.
Right.
But
Right.
you know what?
Yeah.
We're not to seek that. We are to seek being in the scripture. So
Mhm.
that's where my focus is really learning what the Bible actually says.
Yeah. You've done a lot of work with women.
Yes.
What would you say to a Jewish woman that might be curious about Jesus, that really may not want to have anything to do with him, but yet there's this maybe curiosity?
I would say that I had that same curiosity as long as I can remember, like a little tiny nag, and that Jesus is Jewish. He came from a Jewish family, a Jewish home, a Jewish mother, a Jewish race of people, and he is safe to explore.
Mm.
Because we're told as Jewish people, like it's like your hand touches a hot iron. You don't talk about Jesus, you don't think about Jesus. Jesus is
Right.
for us. So warming up the idea that this is someone you can explore, and is not forbidden, and I think is an important message to Jewish women.
Great women. Yeah, it's a great message.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Liz, for sharing your story and being vulnerable and, expressing yourself in that way. I'm just so grateful for your salvation experience with Yeshua.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to share it.
Stay tuned for the next episode with Liz Nolan, where we discuss how important women are. And if you thought women were treated as second class or property in the scriptures, think again. You won't want to miss this one. You'll be surprised at how valuable women's roles were and are. And if you like these kind of conversations and want to see more, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and please share these videos with everyone you know. And if you'd like to visit our website, you can do so by going to jewsforjesus.org. The link is in the description. You can also chat with us live and anonymously. Also, don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and may you all find peace and hope in our Messiah, Yeshua.